Picture Benjamin Franklin, late at night, surrounded by books and candlelight. He wasn't just inventing or negotiating. He was applying principles he'd learned from Freemasonry, a society known for guarding knowledge about leadership and reality. Figures like Franklin, Churchill, and even Mozart were connected to these groups, which valued certain philosophical principles and passed them through generations. Why do some people live effortlessly magical lives, while others seem stuck in endless struggle? Today we're exploring 7 hidden secrets, long guarded by societies like the Freemasons and the Illuminati, that shape your reality, often without your awareness. Find out how what you ignore could unlock your reality. Imagine living in a world where certain individuals seem to hold the kind of knowledge that bends reality in their favor, achieving success, influencing millions, leaving legacies, while others struggle to merely survive. Could the missing link be knowledge so powerful that it's been guarded for centuries? Throughout history, certain groups have been accused of not only understanding the fabric of reality, but mastering it. Take the Freemasons, for example, an organization often surrounded by myth and speculation. 14 American presidents were part of this fraternity, including George Washington, a name synonymous with not just leadership but strategic vision that fundamentally shaped a nation. So, is it coincidence that these individuals were tied to societies claiming to safeguard forbidden knowledge? Or is there more to it? These secret societies, like the Illuminati and the Knights Templar, have woven their influence into the fabric of history, with members ranging from household names like Winston Churchill to creative geniuses like Mozart. What ties them together isn't just a thirst for power, but a deep connection to principles they believed governed the universe. Think of Churchill steering Britain through World War II. Was his confidence merely the product of circumstance, or did he understand larger patterns at play, ones we might overlook because we fail to recognize them entirely? Here's where the distinction begins. Those who mastered reality seem to have internalized these truths, not simply believed in them. It's the difference between knowing gravity exists and navigating the laws of physics effortlessly, versus ignoring them and wondering why you keep falling. The tricky part is that knowledge at this level doesn't scream for attention. It whispers to those who are ready to listen. This is why it's often passed down quietly, safeguarded rather than shared openly. It's not about exclusivity so much as responsibility. These principles aren't just ideas, they're frameworks for tapping into human potential. Left in the wrong hands, they could be used as tools of destruction instead of creation. History bears the scars of those who distorted such wisdom, but on the other hand, it also shows us what's possible when it's applied correctly. Consider the idea of transformation. Ignorance isn't just a lack of understanding. It's a kind of blindness to how things truly work. For the masses, this blindness creates cycles of struggle, like grinding jobs, unfulfilling relationships, or chasing happiness without ever finding it. But for those who understand the universal laws, life starts to feel less like a fight and more like a flow. Take Benjamin Franklin, a known Freemason, as an example. He wasn't just a statesman and inventor, he was also a man who approached life strategically, embedding certain principles into everything he did. He failed many times. In fact, failure became his playground. Why? Because he understood that reality bends for those willing to align with its deeper truths. The real test, then, isn't just knowing this information exists, but choosing to learn it and apply it in your life. This brings us to the idea of mastery. Secret societies often taught that mastery begins with understanding principles, not applying them randomly. Principles like balance, timing, clarity, and the interplay of physical action with mental intention create a blueprint that's just as relevant now as it was 100 years ago. But here's the harsh truth: most people don't apply these concepts because they don't even know they're living in opposition to them. Think of the law of gravity. It is universal, whether or not you're aware of it. Two people jumping from the same height produce the same outcome, regardless of intent. Rules govern reality, but awareness of those rules allows you to predict, prepare, and even guide your experience. Now, what if I told you that life works in much the same way, governed by laws, so fundamental that they operate, regardless of whether you acknowledge them? The difference is in knowing how to wield them purposefully. An example of this can be found in Napoleon Hill's century-old classic, Think and Grow Rich, a book inspired by conversations Hill had with some of America's wealthiest families. The principles outlined align remarkably with those passed down in hidden circles of wisdom, principles that demand clarity of vision, the ability to shift focus, and immense discipline of thought. What Hill realized, and what many before him knew, is that life is less about luck and more about aligning with truths that already exist. As we look closer at these principles today, you'll begin to notice how they influence everything from leadership to everyday problem solving. These secrets connect directly to what you already recognize as universal laws, but they go deeper, bridging the seen and the unseen. Why do powerful figures from Franklin to modern innovators seem to benefit from a world most people only observe? It's because they've stopped observing and started participating, using unspoken rules as a manual for life. With this in mind, it becomes clear, if you want more than constant struggle or mediocrity, a pivot is required, not just in your actions, but in your understanding of reality itself. The 7 secrets we'll explore in this journey aren't just concepts, they're tools. They're a hidden blueprint that has already shaped society on countless levels, waiting for people like you to use them deliberately and transformatively. Now, here's the starting point. Reality is shaped first by how we perceive and relate to the world, 2 elements distorted by a single misunderstanding. That misunderstanding? It lies inside us. Let's uncover the first secret that redefines how you see yourself and your thoughts. What if I told you that the voice in your head, the one narrating, critiquing, and reacting to every moment, isn't actually you? It's unsettling at first, isn't it? For most people, this voice runs their lives, shaping their moods, decisions, and beliefs. But here's the thing. That voice is just a product of the mind. It's not the true essence of who you are. Mistaking it for your core identity is like confusing the clouds in the sky with the sky itself. And this misunderstanding is often the root of struggles like anxiety, fear, and feeling stuck. It's something we all experience. Imagine, for instance, a bad day at work. The moment you leave the office, your mind starts replaying everything that went wrong. Why did I say that in the meeting? What if they think I'm incompetent? Before you know it, those thoughts spiral. The frustration or shame feels personal, almost like it defines you. But what if it doesn't? What if there's a version of you that can watch those thoughts come and go without getting swept up in them? This idea might sound abstract, but ancient philosophies, like those from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, offer a clear framework to unpack it. They describe 4 levels of awareness: body, mind, emotions, and pure consciousness. Most of us operate only within the first 3. We identify with what we feel emotionally, think mentally, or experience physically. But these are just layers. The deeper self, the pure consciousness, is the part of you that can observe all the rest. It's the observer watching your body feeling tension, your mind spinning stories, and your emotions rising and falling like waves on the ocean. To understand this better, think about your breath. Right now, notice how it feels to breathe in and out. Don't force it or try to control it. Just observe. And ask yourself, who is noticing this breath? That's where consciousness begins. It's not the breath itself, or even your thoughts about the breath. It's the awareness that simply watches. When you sit in that place of awareness, everything else, even the loudest thoughts, becomes less immediate, less charged. Instead of identifying with them, you start to see them for what they are, fleeting. A simple way to practice this is through what's called neutral witnessing. Here's how it works. Imagine sitting on a bench, watching clouds drift across the sky. Each cloud is a thought or an emotion. You don't judge the clouds, they're not good or bad, they just pass. Now apply this to your mind. The thoughts come, but you don't need to react or assign them meaning. You simply watch. This practice doesn't require hours a day. In fact, just spending 5 minutes like this, observing your thoughts without judgment, can shift your entire mindset over time. I used to struggle with relentless anxiety, especially when I first started sharing my ideas publicly. The fear of failure gnawed at me, and I'd replay, hesitantly, what-if scenarios until they felt real. But then, I stumbled onto this practice of deliberately observing rather than reacting to my thoughts. At first, it felt unnatural, like trying to quietly watch a wild animal pacing in a cage. But over weeks, something shifted. I realized that the anxiety wasn't me. It was something passing through me, like a visitor overstaying its welcome. Once I could simply observe it without feeding it energy, it began to fade on its own. This practice isn't about stopping your thoughts. That's a common misconception. The goal is not to silence your mind, but to notice that you are not your mind. When you master this distinction, an incredible thing happens. You get clarity. You start to see life as it actually is, not through the lens of your emotions or fleeting fears. That's when you can begin aligning with the deeper truths we're exploring today, because the noise, the mental chatter that clouds your direction, no longer controls you. Here's why this shift matters. Most struggles happen because we identify with temporary feelings or stories. For example, if you have a fear of failing, it's easy to believe that fear is your reality. I'll never succeed because I'm too scared. But when you observe that fear instead of becoming it, the entire story changes. You can say, "There's fear here," without letting it dictate your actions. That separation from the thought gives you power over it. To integrate this into your life, try this exercise. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Sit somewhere quiet and notice your thoughts. Don't fight them, just let them come and go. Pretend they're characters in a movie you're watching. Some might be loud and dramatic, others might be subtle or fleeting. But no matter what appears, remind yourself, I'm just watching. You'll soon see that those thoughts aren't the boss of you. They're merely suggestions. Think of mastering this practice as building a solid foundation. Everything else in life, whether it's setting goals, overcoming challenges, or even understanding the deeper principles we'll cover, rests on your ability to see yourself clearly. If you can unhook from that constant identification with thoughts and feelings, you instantly shift your relationship with the world. Now, once you know how to observe yourself, the next step is recognizing what you truly want. Because clarity isn't just about chasing goals, it's about ensuring those goals align with your deeper purpose. Let's explore how to cultivate that kind of crystalline clarity. Why do some people seem to effortlessly attract success, while others feel like they're constantly swimming upstream? The answer lies in clarity. Not just clarity about what you want, but a crystal clear vision of why you want it and who you'll need to become to achieve it. Without this kind of clarity, it's like driving through life in dense fog. You hesitate, second guess, and before long you're paralyzed, stuck at the very intersection where you could have moved forward. Take, for example, the story of a CEO who transformed his company into a multi-billion-dollar empire. When asked about the secret behind his success, his answer was remarkably simple. "I only have a clear vision. That's it. No convoluted strategies or hidden tricks, just absolute clarity about what he needed the company to achieve, why it mattered to him, and how he needed to lead to make it happen." But here's the part that's easy to misunderstand. Clarity isn't some passive insight that floats into your mind. It's an active, deliberate practice of focusing on what matters most. Where there's no clarity, fear takes its place. You might not realize it, but this lack of direction triggers an unconscious tendency, focusing on what you don't want. Let's say you're frustrated about your career. Every thought you have centers around avoiding failure. What if I don't get that promotion? What if my peers view me as lazy or unmotivated? Without intending to, you create an energy of resistance that shapes those outcomes. That's the trap. Focusing on fear doesn't keep failure away. It draws it closer by dominating your thoughts and decisions. This is where the concept of two types of clarity comes in: magnetic clarity and repulsive clarity. Magnetic clarity is the pull you feel toward your vision when you're clear about what you want. It's that singular focus that acts as a magnet, bringing opportunities into alignment with your goals. Repulsive clarity, on the other hand, is defining what you need to avoid. It's about identifying the patterns or situations you can no longer tolerate. Both are essential because together they help refine your direction. Yet most people stop at vague desires like, "I want to make more money," or "I want to be happier." Ambiguity fuels fear and confusion. Clarity is the antidote. There's even a formula to help you reach this kind of clarity. It goes like this: what plus why plus who equals how plus when. Let's break it down. First, you define the what, your goal. Then the why, which gives the goal power by connecting it to something meaningful. The who is where transformation begins. Who do you need to become for this goal to be possible? And who can't you afford to remain? Once those three pieces are clear, the how and when naturally follow. You see a path where there was once only fog. Let's make this real with an example. Imagine your goal is to hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube. That's your what. But why does it matter? Maybe your why is connected to sharing value with as many people as possible, establishing credibility, and turning content creation into a sustainable career. Then comes the who. To reach that milestone, you'll need to become disciplined, consistent, and someone committed to genuine engagement with an audience. You'll also need to shed old habits like procrastination or creating content without intention. Once you're clear on this transformation, the how, planning your content, engaging with viewers, refining your craft, becomes obvious. And the when, that depends on the consistency you apply. But now you have the structure to support steady growth. Without clarity, fear of mediocrity can overwhelm any ambitious goal. Imagine a YouTuber who keeps saying, "I don't want to fail." That's repulsive clarity in action. But without balancing it with a clear vision of success, the energy is reactive, not proactive. Their focus isn't on producing great content or connecting with an audience. It's on avoiding failure. Clarity redirects this energy into something productive, something actionable. By shifting the attention toward becoming exceptional, they pivot from fear to confidence. Here's something to try. Write down a specific goal you have. It could be starting a business, improving your health, learning a new skill, anything that speaks to your deeper desires. Then work through the formula. Define what you want in detail. Explore why it matters to you, and get honest about what kind of person you need to become to make it a reality. As you do this, you might notice something surprising. Clarity itself generates confidence. It's not something you fake or force. It grows naturally when you're anchored in a clear vision. Think of this process like sharpening a lens. When the image is blurry, you hesitate, but when the picture snaps into focus, every step toward it feels obvious, even inevitable. That's why clarity is more than a tool. It's a magnetic force that both inspires you and draws the right opportunities into your life. And when paired with the discipline to refocus whenever doubt creeps in, it's unstoppable. Clarity doesn't just transform how you approach your goals, it transforms how the world responds to you. It projects confidence outward, making you a beacon for the right people and resources. But here's the remarkable part. It starts from the simplest shift, getting specific about what you want and why it matters. With that foundation in place, everything else becomes alignment. Now that you understand how clarity serves as the guiding light for your vision, the question becomes, how do you turn that vision into tangible results? The answer lies in the alignment of three planes: action, thought, and spirit. Let's explore how to synchronize them and create a framework for real transformation. What if creating the life you dream about isn't just about hard work or positive thinking, but comes down to how well you align three fundamental forces: action, thought, and spirit? This concept, known as the three planes of creation, has been traced back to Hermes Trismegistus, the mysterious figure known as thrice greatest in ancient Egyptian wisdom. He taught that everything you manifest in the physical world starts first on the mental and spiritual levels. It's the interplay between these realms that forms the foundation of reality. Yet, there's a common pitfall many fall into, thinking that visualizing a dream without action is enough to make it real. To understand why that doesn't work, consider the story of the drowning man and the boats. As the tale goes, a man prays desperately for divine intervention as he struggles to stay afloat. He rejects the help of every boat that comes his way, believing that God will personally save him. When he drowns and meets his creator, he asks, "Sad, why didn't you rescue me?" The answer: "I sent 6 boats." This story highlights the critical role of the physical plane, that real-world action is part of how we bring our prayers, ideas, and visualizations into existence. Simply waiting for the universe to intervene isn't enough. To truly create, you need harmony across all three planes: physical, mental, and spiritual. Let's start with the physical plane, the most tangible realm. This is where action takes form. Maybe you've visualized a goal, like launching a new business, but if you've taken no steps to build a product, pitch it, or find clients, the dream stays trapped in your mind. The physical plane is about doing the work, sending an email, making a call, or setting an alarm to wake up early and set your priorities. It's about aligning your environment and your habits with the vision you hold. Now let's move to the mental plane, where visualization becomes a powerful creative tool. This isn't just about daydreaming, it's about embedding your desires into the subconscious mind with focus and consistency. Advanced techniques like sensory immersion can help here. For instance, if you're visualizing yourself securing a big promotion, don't just imagine the title. Picture the email announcing it, hear the congratulatory words from your boss, and feel the weight of accomplishment. Tune into the details, the sound of applause, the fabric of the suit you'll wear, or the way the corner office smells of fresh coffee. These vivid mental images, paired with emotional resonance, signal to your subconscious that this reality isn't just a dream, it's inevitable. That brings us to the spiritual plane, which serves as the guide and source of your intentions. This is where practices like meditation become invaluable. Meditation creates a direct connection with what many refer to as the source, or a higher intelligence. The simplest way to think about this is that visualization is often like uploading your desires into the universe, while meditation allows for downloads, receiving guidance, clarity, and even unexpected ideas that align with your goals. You don't need to prescribe what this connection looks like. For some, it's sitting quietly and focusing on your breath, while for others, it might include affirmations, prayer, or even walking in nature. What matters is consistency, developing the habit of stepping back from noise and tuning into stillness, where that deeper guidance can emerge. Let's pull this all together with a real-world example. When I started this YouTube channel, I had big ideas, but no clear sense of how to execute them. I began by adopting habits in the physical plane, building a content calendar, learning the basics of filming and editing, and uploading my first videos even though they weren't perfect. On the mental plane, I used visualization. I'd picture thousands of people watching my videos, imagine engaging with supportive comments, and feel the pride of creating something valuable for others. Spiritually, I made space for meditation, which often helped me overcome moments of doubt. In the quiet, I'd receive small but essential insights, ideas for topics, reminders to stay patient, or simply the reassurance to keep going. In hindsight, the growth of this channel was a result of all three forces working together: the actions taken, the mental alignment, and the spiritual guidance. Now it's your turn. Choose a small goal, something manageable but meaningful. Think about these three questions. First, what action can you take today to move closer to it on the physical plane? Second, how can you visualize it on the mental plane? Make it vivid, adding sensory details and emotions to your imagination. Lastly, how will you connect to the spiritual plane? Maybe it's 5 minutes of silent reflection or journaling to tune into your deeper intuition. The point isn't to master all three planes overnight, but to experiment with aligning them and see what shifts. When all three of these planes work in harmony, you create a complete system of materializing your desires. Action grounds your vision in reality. Mental alignment shapes the framework of your goals, and spiritual connection ensures you're moving in the right direction. By neglecting any one plane, your effort is incomplete. It's like trying to build a house with no foundation or a blueprint that doesn't match the materials. But when all parts align, that's when transformation happens. Now that you've learned how these three forces interact, let's take it one step further and look at a paradoxical law. The rule that sometimes letting go is what actually brings your dreams within reach. Let's explore that next. What if the harder you chase something, the further it seems to slip away? You've likely heard stories, or maybe even experienced it yourself, where the sheer intensity of wanting something seems to push it out of reach. It's a strange paradox, but one that may hold the secret to achieving your biggest dreams. This idea rests on a concept called dynamic equilibrium, which ancient Masonic teachings describe as the balance between effort and surrender. It's the recognition that while action is important, so too is knowing when to release control and allow space for things to unfold naturally. Without this balance, your energy can turn into resistance, causing you to push your desires even further away. Here's an example of how resistance works. Imagine throwing all your energy into avoiding failure. When fear dominates your focus, it directs most of your mental and emotional energy toward what you don't want. Think about it in terms of numbers. If 97% of your energy is consumed by thoughts like, "I can't let this fail," that leaves just 3% of your effort actually focused on achieving success. The problem is subtle, but powerful. Even though your intention may be to succeed, the fear of failure creates tension, blocking progress and draining the energy you need to achieve your goal. This is where we can learn from an ancient yogic principle, the balance of Vaga and Asa. Vaga represents effort, the discipline, determination, and persistence you bring to your goals. Asa, on the other hand, is surrender, letting go of attachment to the outcome and trusting that the universe will handle the rest. The two aren't opposites, they're complementary forces. A plant doesn't grow because you tug on its roots daily. It grows because you nourish the soil, give it water, and then step back, allowing nature to work its magic. The same principle applies to life and success. Your efforts are essential, but so is the ability to let go at the right moments. Here's how this might look in real life. A friend of mine once set a goal to hit 2 million views on a video. He gave it everything, researching for weeks, pouring his energy into creating a standout piece of content, and meticulously optimizing the title and thumbnail. By all measurable standards, his effort was flawless. But when the video went live, it reached only 900,000 views, not even half of what he aimed for. He could have felt defeated, like all that effort was wasted. Instead, he shifted his perspective. He chose to focus on the connections and feedback that came from those 900,000 people, rather than obsess over the missed mark. What he realized was that his growth as a creator, the process, had been the real success all along. And the next video, it ended up reaching over 2.5 million views, surpassing his original goal. It wasn't the stressed-out chasing that worked. It was the balance of effort and trust that opened the door. This brings us to an important shift in mindset. Instead of obsessing over the outcome, focus on the process. Think of the outcome as the fruit and the process as the soil. You can't control when the fruit will ripen, but you can control how well you tend the soil. Process goals work like this. Say you want to grow your fitness level. Instead of obsessing over reaching a specific weight in a set time frame, focus on smaller daily decisions. How often you'll exercise, how you'll plan meals, or how much water you'll drink. By dedicating energy to what you can control, you create a system where progress happens naturally and without the resistance that comes from clinging too tightly to results. This isn't just about surrendering for surrender's sake. It's about redirecting energy. When you stop pouring all your focus into outcomes, you create mental and emotional space that allows creativity, opportunities, and even unexpected breakthroughs to emerge. Some of the biggest turning points in life come when we least expect them, often in those moments where we stop straining. Ancient teachings suggest that when our energy is balanced, our minds calm, our actions intentional, and our desires not loaded with desperation, the universe responds in ways we might never predict. Here's an exercise to bring this idea into your day-to-day life. Identify a goal you've been chasing. Now, shift your focus. Instead of defining success solely by an outcome, outline one small, consistent action that supports the goal. Maybe it's writing 1 page a day for a book you're working on. Maybe it's creating 3 pieces of content per week for your business. Whatever it is, make it specific. Commit to this process-focused action for the next week, and while you're at it, pay attention to what happens internally as you release the fixation on the end result. Remember, breakthroughs often happen when we surrender control, not because we've stopped caring, but because that act of surrender creates alignment. To resist less is to align more. By working with the natural flow of the universe, putting in effort without clinging to the outcome, you make space for bigger things to take root. This is the essence of dynamic equilibrium, a state where effort meets trust, and progress happens not despite the balance, but because of it. Understanding this balance reveals one more layer of reality that often goes unnoticed: the role of timing. The goals you're working toward, the things you're waiting for, they don't just arrive when you demand them. Timing plays a key role, and in the next part of our journey, we'll explore why your desires might not show up when you think they should, and how to work with the universe's natural rhythm. Timing is a force that shapes outcomes in ways we often overlook. While you might plan, act, and visualize, the moment when things actually come together is rarely under your direct control. This is the heart of the 6th secret: understanding timing as a natural rhythm that can't be forced, only recognized and worked with. Instead of thinking of timing as a passive weight, it's more useful to see it as an unseen current beneath everything you do, sometimes slow, sometimes swift, but always moving. The universe, as ancient wisdom suggests, operates in cycles and seasons, not on the deadlines we set for ourselves. Think about how nature works. No matter how much you want a flower to bloom in winter, it won't happen until the season is right. The same principle applies to your goals. You might feel prepared for a breakthrough, but the conditions around you, resources, skills, or relationships, may still be adjusting. This isn't a sign you're failing. It's a sign that preparation is happening behind the scenes, often in ways you can't see. The work you do now, even if it seems invisible or unrewarded, can lay the groundwork for results that show up months or even years later. One of the biggest challenges with timing is knowing whether you're facing wrong timing or using the wrong approach. Thought: maybe you've been working on a project, putting in steady effort, but you're not seeing results. Is it because your method needs a change, or is it simply not the right moment for things to fall into place? Questioning this question doesn't always have a clear answer. That's why it's important to pay attention to feedback from your environment. Sometimes you'll encounter repeated obstacles, unexpected delays, or even a persistent sense that you're being nudged in a different direction. These can be signals to pause, reassess, or give the process more space. This is where patience comes in, but not the kind of patience that means sitting back and waiting for things to happen. Active patience is different. Patanjali's teaching on active patience describes it as nurturing your skills and intentions daily, while trusting that progress is unfolding, even if you can't see it yet. It's an ongoing engagement, a willingness to keep showing up and refining your craft so you're ready when the right moment arrives. Active patience means you don't stop moving forward, but you also don't force outcomes before their time. Let's look at a concrete example. One author from our research spent 8 years refining his manuscript before it became a bestseller. For 8 years, he faced rejection after rejection, but he didn't interpret those setbacks as failure. Instead, he used the feedback to improve his writing, deepen his understanding, and strengthen his resolve. When the right publisher finally appeared, the manuscript was ready, and so was he. The book's success wasn't sudden or accidental. It was the result of years of preparation, meeting the perfect moment. This story highlights a key point. Success often looks instantaneous from the outside, but it's almost always built on a foundation of unseen effort and trust in timing. You can see this pattern in other real-life stories as well. Take Ryan Penley, who faced years of rejection before his self-help book reached bestseller status. His breakthrough didn't come from trying harder at the wrong time. It came when persistence met the right opportunity. The setbacks he encountered weren't signs to give up, but invitations to keep refining his message and skills. When the timing aligned, everything came together quickly, but only because he had stayed ready and engaged during the waiting period. Active patience, then, is about holding space for your goals while continuing to act with intention. It's like tending a garden. You plant seeds, water them, and keep the soil healthy. But you don't dig up the roots every day to check their progress. You trust the process, even when there's nothing visible above the surface. This approach keeps you prepared for synchronicity, the moment when your readiness meets opportunity. But how do you know if you're practicing active patience or just waiting passively? The difference is in your engagement. Passive patience is marked by waiting for things to happen, often with growing frustration or resignation. Active patience means you keep learning, adjusting, and taking small steps, even when results aren't immediate. It's a mindset that says, I'm not just hoping for the right timing, I'm preparing for it. There's also a subtle skill in reading the signs around you. Sometimes the universe gives gentle nudges that the timing isn't right, like a series of closed doors, repeated delays, or a feeling of resistance. Other times you'll notice openings, a conversation that leads to a new connection, a sudden insight, or an unexpected opportunity. Staying attuned to these signals requires presence and a willingness to let go of rigid expectations. When you do, you can shift your energy from forcing outcomes to being ready for them. The interplay between timing and effort is especially important when you're close to a breakthrough. It's common to encounter the greatest resistance just before a significant change. This is the seventh secret, the final test. Before breakthroughs, reality often presents challenges that seem designed to test your commitment and readiness. Patterns resurface, doubts intensify, and setbacks multiply. These aren't random obstacles. They're opportunities to demonstrate what you've learned and to prove to yourself and the universe that you're prepared for the next level. This principle shows up in many stories of transformation. Christophe, for example, hit a plateau in his business before he experienced a dramatic increase in income. The period right before his breakthrough was filled with frustration and doubt. But instead of giving up, he kept applying the principles we've discussed: clarity, alignment, balance, and patience. His persistence through these challenges was what allowed him to step into the opportunity when it finally arrived. What can you do when you're in this waiting period, not sure if it's time to push or pause? The answer is to focus on what you can control: your daily actions, your attitude, and your willingness to learn from feedback. Keep refining your skills. Stay open to new information and remain flexible in your approach. Trust that the work you're doing is not wasted, even if results aren't immediate. Often, the shift you need is internal: a change in perspective, a release of old fears, or a new level of self-trust. When these inner changes align with outer circumstances, timing clicks into place. It's also helpful to remember that timing is not just about waiting for the right moment, but about being the right person when the moment arrives. The universe tends to reward those who are prepared, adaptable, and willing to grow. By focusing on your own development, you increase the chances of recognizing and seizing opportunities as they appear. To make this practical, try adopting a 30-day challenge. For the next month, pick one goal and commit to daily action, no matter how small. Track your progress, reflect on what you're learning, and notice the feedback you receive from your environment. Are doors opening or closing? Are you feeling more energized or more resistant? Use these observations to adjust your approach, but keep moving forward. This kind of consistent practice builds momentum and creates the conditions for timing to work in your favor. Throughout this journey, remember that the 7 secrets are not just ideas to consider, they are a framework to apply. The knowledge that shaped world leaders, innovators, and everyday people who broke through their own limits is available to you, but only if you put it into practice. The results may not be immediate, but consistent action, trust in timing, and openness to feedback create a powerful combination. If you're finding this valuable, hit like and share an example of timing working for you in the comments. Let's learn together. The path to transformation is built step by step, day by day, as you align your actions with the deeper rhythms of life. As you continue, stay present, stay engaged, and trust that the right moment is always on its way.